Welcome into another episode of Every Hornets Box Score. 2 in a row! Man, this might even turn into a podcast. I don't even know. I'm Doug Branson. I'm joined by Evan Hale. He wrote the box score write-up for Every Hornets Box Score on this game that I have pulled up on the screen now. If you're watching on YouTube, Charlotte wins in the preseason, 120-116. A lot to dig into in this game. We've also got a couple of other storylines we'll tackle, plus we'll look ahead to some of the games that are happening this week, including a game that's a home game, but it's not really a home game. And then the Hornets, they travel to New York to face the Knicks later in the week. But we first stop in Dallas, where the Hornets pick up the win. Ryan Kalkbrenner, your leader in game score with 14 points, 10 rebounds. LaMelo Ball, 20 points. Miles Bridges, 20 points. He was on a heater from three. So was LaMelo. Brandon, bounce back game, 15 points. Colin Sexton, 12. He gets the start in this game along with Ryan Kalkbrenner. But Evan, you did the write-up for this game. What were your big takeaways?
I think there's a couple of them. First off, Ryan Kalkbrenner did a lot of things that I complained about. He fixed a couple of things. He played a lot more physicality. He used his size. He was 7 for 7 from the field. And a lot of those were on just, I'm going to be stronger than you. I'm bigger than you. Let me score, which is what I was asking for him to do. So I'm happy with that. Defense didn't look that bad. Didn't look that good either. But, it's a little bit higher than the median that had been previously. LaMelo, he had a great game. Miles Bridges, he had 18 of his points in the first half. And he had a double-double, halfway through the third quarter. It was ridiculous. Brandon Miller shot well.
Skirting past Clay.
Concanapple did not shoot well. I think he missed his first 4 threes, but he still made an impact. I think he was the only guy off the bench who had a positive plus-minus. So even him not scoring, he still has the impact, which is something you want from a guy like that, because a lot of people were worried about him just being a shooter. So seeing him have an impact in that way, it's positive,
Yeah, I thought this one, Concanapple, I don't know if the plus-minus was just a fact of him being on the floor at certain times, because I thought this was a rookie game for Concanapple. The 5 turnovers being the glaring thing, and a lot of them were where he was making decisions too quickly, not seeing somebody about to jump the pass lane and being a little lazy with a pass or two. And so I thought this was a game for me that said, hey, Concanapple's a rookie, and that's okay. He's a 4th overall pick, but he's still a rookie. He's going to make some mistakes. And this comes in a game where he's coming off the bench for the second game in a row. Colin Sexton gets the start. I thought Colin, didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but again, getting to the free throw line, 6 free throw attempts. He was in guys' shirts on defense. And I just think the Colin Sexton LaMelo Ball pairing, of the pairings that I've seen so far, Trey Mann and Concanapple, I'm just liking what I'm seeing most out of the Colin Sexton pairing as they try to figure out, what do they want to do with this. You could call it 2 guard, you could call it wing, second wing, off Brandon Miller, in between Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. And I just think I've liked most what I've seen from Colin Sexton, at least to begin the year, as Concanapple just, gets his feet wet, gets his feet on the ground, whatever analogy you want to use for a guy trying to adjust from moving from the college game to the NBA game. It just makes me love the Colin Sexton pickup even more, because in previous years we would have just been talking about, Con having to just fight it out himself or turn to someone that doesn't have a lot of veteran NBA experience. Instead, the Hornets and Charles Lee, they have a great problem here when it comes to trying to figure out, are they going to go with Colin to begin the game, Con, or Trey Mann?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Colin Sexton's energy is just on both sides of the ball is so good for LaMelo too. Because I think LaMelo, at least this preseason, has been trying a lot harder, especially on defense. And I think part of that is because he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands the entire time on offense. He has secondary ball handlers, especially with Colin Sexton. And Colin Sexton, is going to do things like he drives to the paint a lot, which creates driving kicks. A lot of guys left open in the corner, and this game they were making them. Miles Bridges shot really well, as we talked about. Brandon Miller shot really well. And he had a 7-point play in the middle, the third quarter. He hit an and 1-3. It was on a dangerous what do they call it? A dangerous I forget the terminology for that, but it was a flagrant foul, converted the and 1-3, and then hit a 3 off the inbound. 7-point play. I'm just excited about this team more than I have been in a long time. They played exactly how we were saying if they could play like this, they could win games. They had a lot of energy. They had, everybody did what they're supposed to do, except for Khan. But like you said, Khan's a rookie, and I think he's going to get there. But like you said, we don't have to have him thrown to the wolves and to figure it out, which is that's something that can't be said enough. I'm very excited about, especially just having everybody out there. Did we get an update on Trey Mann with his injury, by the way? I haven't seen anything said about it. I know he got taken out of the game at halftime, right before halftime. So I don't know if he's going to be playing in the next preseason game, but hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, he only got 3 minutes in this game before being pulled for hip soreness, and we did get an update from Charles Lee earlier today. We're recording this on Monday, and Charles Lee essentially said he's day to day hip soreness. They're just going to kind of check in. It does not sound serious at all, which is very good for the Hornets. Don't want to start things off with an injury, although again, because they loaded up at that position, they've got a little bit of room to work. Like if Trey Mann needs, an extra couple of days, or if Colin, or if Khan, or whatever, if any of these guys get dinged up, you don't have to feel the sense of urgency about like, we've got to get these guys back out on the floor. But you pointed to the shooting, and I was, 16 of 39 from three, 41%. That's the pathway to victory for the Charlotte Hornets. Like, I think when we look back on this season, the games where they won are going to be more often the games where they score 110, 115, 120 than they will be the games where they score. They might get in a dogfight with Miami or a team that they match up particularly well with, and they might win one or two of those defensive scrap fests. But I think most of their victories this season are because two or three guys, and in this case, it was LaMelo Ball, 4 of 8 from three. It was Miles Bridges, 4 of 8 from three, and he really set the tone early for the team with his 3-point shooting. And that's going to have to be a thing too. Like, guys are going to, I think, they're all playing with energy. They're all playing with a new defensive focus and a new determination to be better on the defensive end. It's just going to help them along the way if they can start the game off in a rhythm offensively, because there will be those games this season where the first couple of shots don't go in, and then it just has a cascading effect on the defensive end of the floor, because they're not a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, like the Houston Rockets, like some of these defensive teams where they're just locked in all the time, no matter what. Now, maybe they grow into that by the end of the season. That's probably the goal for Charles Lee, whether it be by the end of this season or next season, is to get this team and the personnel to a place where they can say, all right, it doesn't matter if the shots aren't going in or not. This is a team that's always going to hang its hat on defense. That's just not the character of this team right now. So, they've got to have LaMelo and Miles and Brandon hitting shots early and often. What did you think of Brandon Miller's game in this one? Because last two games, I thought he really struggled. Looks like he's shaking off the rust. But in this one, I thought he played a lot better. He was 6 of 10 from the field, 15 points, 5 assists. Still only 2 rebounds. Would love to see that number come up a little bit. But he seems smooth, in control, and a lot less frustrated than he has over the past couple of games. What did you think of Brandon's game?
Yeah, I feel like he let the game come to him. Like, he just, took the shots that were there, didn't take the shots that weren't. He facilitated a little bit better. I think he, off the dribble, he had a lot of plays where he got the ball and didn't fall over his feet when he went to go drive to the basket.
Yeah.
Attacked. He had a couple good assists where he just drove and kicked, or drove and kicked to LaMelo, who kicked to somebody else. I feel like he just played. He let the game come in. He played a little more smooth. He felt a little more controlled. I think he just got out of his head a little bit. I think the first game he shot bad just because he was getting back into it. Second game, I think he got into his head quicker, and you could tell he missed a lot of the shots. And this game, it feels like he just took a second, let the game come to him, and made the right plays. Kind of how we were seeing. I think he took a piece of Khan's game. How Khan would just kind of kiss the ball, let it come to him. They kind of traded places this game. I feel like he was a little rushing. You made a comment about Kalkbrenner, about his rushing passes. He definitely did, but I also think like Mason Plumlee has bricks for hands some plays where he'll dive to the basket and he kicks it to him. He missed like 2. They were difficult they weren't difficult, but they weren't easy catches. But he should have caught the ball, and they both went off his hands and out of bounds. I mean, Khan's got to be a little bit better of a passer there, but I think we also need to give him a little bit of grace on some of his early turnovers. I think LaMelo only had 3 turnovers this game too, which I think they were all off of dumb things too. I think most of them were off fouls. Like I mean, not fouls. He fouled off of his turnovers, which are what
Mm-hmm.
was fouls are for. But he had like 2 passes that were dropped. But you know,
I think on the con turnovers, yeah, they're not all his fault, and I am giving him a lot of grace. I don't think he lost the starting position,
yeah, no.
last night, but I do think if I'm just trying to get into Charles Lee's head, and I'm thinking about like what they need to start a game, I think he's going to value Colin Sexton's, I think, more veteran game, understanding where and how things happen at just a quicker pace. But then again, I think you're going to have some nights where particularly on this team where you do have to have offense. I just think we're going to see some nights where like Colin starts and Trey Mann has more minutes than any of the three. And sometimes, and then if eventually Khan gets the starting nod, then you'll see some nights where Colin and Trey both get more minutes because I think one of the biggest challenges for Charles Lee this season is going to be riding hot hands and trying to make sure that there's enough offense on the floor and that the right guys are on the floor at the right time to make some things happen offensively because that's going to be the path to victory as he again skills everyone up on the defensive end of the floor. I didn't get a chance to talk about Ryan Kalkbrenner, so I want to return to him for a minute. I thought this was the perfect matchup for Ryan Kalkbrenner. Like Derek Lively, you don't have to play on AD much. That was mostly Miles Bridges' responsibility. AD also just felt asleep. A lot of this game was not very effective. And Lively, someone that's like not going to pull you too far out from the basket very often, and somebody that, I think Ryan Kalkbrenner, well, not only Lively, but often like when you look back at some of the rebounds, the offensive rebounds he had, there wasn't a lot of like bulk and size out there to move Kalkbrenner, and he's just really good and obviously really really tall, but really good at just finding the basketball, using his hands, kicking, punching it out. He's really good at that. And so, I think that this was the perfect matchup for him. And to his credit, he got the start and he took advantage of it. But this may be signaling to me that I think there's going to be more of a definitive choice at who starts at the off wing position. I think it's going to be way less definitive at the center position. I could see Charles Lee playing matchup almost every other game and just saying, all right, tonight it just feels like this is a Kalkbrenner game. Tonight this feels like it's a Musa game. Tonight this feels like it's a Plumlee game. Although Plumlee, I don't know again if it's missed time because of the personal issue, but he just, we haven't seen Plumlee really play well yet. So still waiting on that. But I just think like this could be I think the center position is going to be in flux for a lot longer than that 2 guard position. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think I might have read into it even a little bit more than most people when I saw Kalkbrenner starting. I think it's just more of a matchup base, like you were saying. It makes me kind of excited that he's starting in the preseason. I was worried that he was just going to be a guy come off the bench, play a couple spot minutes, and then he gets shipped to Greensboro. And I think he should still spend some time there, especially early in the season. But I could see him get some, get some comfortability. And I would like to see him have games where he plays, 20 minutes. If he can hang and he can, use his physicality, use his size, and not like a traffic cone on defense. I mean, he had a couple moments where he got put on smaller guys on offense, and he didn't look like an idiot, like he did in the first game. So if he can have more moments like that, I'm excited to see him even get some starts this season.
All right, who did you think didn't play well in this game? What are some? I mean, we talked about Mason Plumlee a little bit. Who else do you feel like could have had a better game here?
I Liam Shotwell, he didn't play a lot, or he did play. He played 15 minutes. God, I feel like he wasn't on the floor at all. his whole preseason has kind of disappointed me a little bit. He did miss a shot, but I just feel like he's a guy that I would be expecting more of, especially after summer league. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at the box score. Nobody played terribly that I can think of. I mean, even Tijon always has his moments, but I thought he shot more than he did. He only shot 1 for 2 this game. Made a 3, but he has his moments on defense where you just get frustrated. And I've said in the box where like I kind of want to see him in Greensboro like a little bit this year, especially once Grant gets back. If he can just spend a little time there and get a little bit more comfortable, I think his whole issue is that he has played almost exclusively with the Hornets and hasn't had time to play against professional athletes but lesser competition to kind of get like where you can be the big dog for a minute and feel that he couldn't have played more than 10 games at Greensboro, right?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a little bit harsher and say he needs to get to Greensboro sooner rather than later because I think he's underwater right now. 3 turnovers, 4 fouls in this game. Defensively he has moments. Offensively, it's again if I think I don't know if I said this on this podcast or if I said it on an episode of Locked On Hornets. It all starts to blend together at some point,
Yeah.
but if this were hockey and like Tijon Salon could just like do a line change and like hop into the game and be open in the corner and then shoot over the top of his man, that would be great. And then immediately check out. But that's not how this game works. Like you've got to set screens. You've got to know what to do off of that screen. Occasionally the ball is just going to happen to be in your hands and you've got to understand what to do with it at that time and make quick, good decisions. And I just don't know that Tijon can be trusted with like 70% of the game. And so that he needs to go to Greensboro and like get into a rhythm, get into a groove, find a few things that he can do, and then get a call up and like bring all of that confidence and that understanding to that next Hornets assignment. But like right now, I mean, he should have, and he only got 14 minutes in this game. He should be getting more minutes. And he's not getting the minutes because he can't be trusted to do some of those things because he's just simply not ready. And I'm not, I think we saw him work out over the summer. Coach was involved. Jeff Peterson was there. Like, I don't think that effort or work ethic or anything, none of that's the problem with Tijon. It's just he's a very young basketball player and he has a weird body type and it's trying to figure out how all of that makes sense. And right now it doesn't make sense. And it has to go to Greensboro to make any sense. I don't think it's helping him. I don't think it will. I mean, it's helping him right now to play in preseason because it's preseason. This is the time. But when it comes to regular season, it's not going to help the Hornets and it's not going to help him to continue to struggle in these minutes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a world because I don't know. There's no timeline on Grant coming back. I'm hopeful he comes back before Christmas, but I'm not too sure. Like he looks like he's recovering well from what I've seen, like the offseason tape. I mean, there's obviously different months ago where he was, running around shooting. But I mean, a guy who he didn't play this game, but a guy who's impressed me this preseason is Drew Peterson. I think he's played really well. He's 6'9", 6'10". If you can have him play some spot minutes at 4, have maybe run some double bigs where you can just cover up your power forward position and send Tijon down. But it's just more of we have 2 power forwards on this roster that are healthy, essentially. I mean, you call Musa power forward sometimes, but he still plays center, and he doesn't space the floor like you'd want a power forward to space the floor. But I mean, maybe if Kalkbrenner starts taking some threes, you start Mason and you run Musa and Kalkbrenner off the bench, and you let Kalkbrenner space the floor a little bit. But it's just, I don't know. This team makes so much sense from small forward to point guard, and so little sense from power forward to center.
I don't know what's happening in practice, Evan, and so you get these small sample size in the game, but they see some stuff. But I mean, this starting lineup that played in this Dallas game outscored the Mavericks by 20, and the net rating was 61.5, offensive rating of 154.8. Again, Bridges flames, LaMelo was flames at time during this lineup. Kalkbrenner didn't miss. But then the defensive rating, 93.3. How much of that was, again, it felt like the Mavericks were sleepwalking a little bit, but the Hornets took advantage. And they'll get those nights sometimes. If they're going to play with this pace, 111.6.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to go out on a limb and say that their pace last season was probably like 97, 98, like that. I mean, it wasn't very fast. So 111, a huge jump for the Hornets, who are pushing it off of mid. And a lot of the threes that Bridges and LaMelo got, and even some of the looks that Kalkbrenner got, were off of them grabbing the miss and immediately pushing the basketball and getting the, and like that. That's where, Miles Bridges was finding open looks in the three because the defense didn't have time to react and push up and challenge the shot. And so another interesting thing, I don't know if you caught this, Evan, that an adjustment that Charles Lee revealed for this season versus last season is that he's having centers take the ball out more.
Yeah,
and apparently,
I did notice that.
Yeah, apparently like last season, his directive to the centers was get down the floor as fast as you can. If you don't have the basketball in your hands, get down the floor as fast as you can and fill the paint. And this season, it's not. This season, I think part of the having the center take the ball out more is just about making sure that your shooters are ready to shoot and they can run down and get into position. So one of them's not taking the ball out. And the other is that you make sure that a ball handler has it in their hand. Whoever you want to initiate the offense, that's the person that's getting it. And you can get down the floor quicker. So all of these adjustments are leading to the pace increase. And it's going to make them fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And I mean, in this one, you were starting to see LaMelo get into a little bit more of a rhythm with his game, both offensively, like both of his shot and his drive, but also his pass too. He's continued to look excellent. I mean, here's a question. Do you think LaMelo has looked the best of any of the Hornets so far? Like, is there anyone that you would look at and say, man, that actually this player's had a better preseason, or is it LaMelo and by a mile?
It's LaMelo. I mean, everyone's played a lot better, but LaMelo is the most talented person on this roster, and I don't think it's very close. And the effort, him putting that effort in, just elevates it even more. I mean, especially with Brandon Miller starting off so slow. He's played a lot better this game, obviously. We talked about that, but he's just so talented. It's with him showing even the most minuscule more effort on defense, but he's doing a lot more than minuscule. You feel that. Also, the pace was 97.6 last year, if you were curious.
Yeah.
Which that's a crazy increase on that. But no, we the announcers, because the Hornets broadcast wasn't there, so I listened to the Mavs broadcast. Significantly worse than Eric and Doe. Everybody is, but them especially. They made a comment about how fast the team played and how they were like, you can feel it, you can see it. And I mean, Cooper Flag. I was going to say this real quick. Cooper Flag. He is the most. I'm 25, so I was 3 years old when LeBron was a rookie. I don't remember LeBron being a rookie. I didn't start watching basketball until I was 8 or 9 years old. Cooper Flag is the most talented rookie I've ever watched in my entire life thus far. Just most pure talent. Wemby might have had more of the physical capabilities, but pure talent wise, it's Cooper Flag easily. And to have the Hornets look that much better, even with him doing that well and being the 20-point favorites, 20-point plus minus over the starting lineup with Cooper Flag in it, that says so much because he played amazing. He did make Brandon Miller look bad at times and Kalkbrenner look bad at times, which I mean, it's just nothing but love for that dude. It makes me more and more sad. I was telling myself maybe Cooper Flag won't be that good after we get the first pick, but God, it's just he's so talented, and to have him be that talented and us make the team look not good with him playing that well, us playing that much better than them. It just says a lot about this roster construction, at least for a starting lineup purpose, and how they want to play and how the roster construction kind of fits how they want to play.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's super talented, fun to watch. Although I thought Knipple got up for the match, the few times that they got to guard each other, he got up for it. You could see it. He wanted the matchup. He wanted to try to get one over on Cooper. So I love that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Cooper's going to be very good and he's going to get plenty of opportunities.
Mhm.
The question will be, I think for Dallas is like, how much scoring responsibility is he going to get in his rookie season versus all the other stuff that they're going to want him to do, rebound, move the basketball. But really like, he's probably his first 3 years going to do three different things and all very well until that fourth season when he just becomes, it's like him and Wemby and Ant and everybody vying for MVP.
And
Cooper's
Continental.
that good. If he stays healthy, Cooper, I think, certainly that good.
Yeah, no, it's very, very talented. I don't know. This team, this game got me very excited for this season. The first two games, not as much. This game got me a lot more excited. I think we saw a progression of what this team wants to do between the three games. The first game, they did not look that well. Second game, they kind of showed up a little bit better. They still lost, but you could see some visions. In this game, they did exactly what they wanted to do, what Charles Lee's been preaching about, and that's got me excited.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, if Josh Green and Grant Williams were healthy,
Yeah,
like this is going to, it will, I think, particularly Grant Williams, will fundamentally transform what this team is capable of doing. But I think Josh Green can do that as well with his wing defense, and not needing to be any kind of scorer, like really just getting to utilize the full defensive tool set of Josh Green and be okay with having him score one or two baskets in a game because you now have other shooters, other people you can depend on. Like, I mean, getting those two players back, and you're right, we have no timeline on it, but like getting those two players back are going to fundamentally change this team. So until then, I think you are going to see games like this where it's like, and they're going to race out in front sometimes if they get on a heater to begin a game, and they're going to give up entire quarters where, it's 35, 40 points in a quarter. They're just, I think they're going to oscillate between that. And what you hope is that they look a certain way games 1 through 10, and by games, 60 through 82, they're just a little bit more defensively sound. And we talked about this on Locked On Hornets, the comments that Tim McMahon of Hoop Collective made about LaMelo Ball, not getting back cut a lot on defense and not looking like he's competing on the defensive end of the floor. And Tim Bontemps came over the top of that and said, well, he just hasn't competed a lot because he hasn't been on the floor. And it's a problem for so many of these players is that it's both a question of what is their ceiling defensively, but it's also a question of like, you cannot grow defensively without play time. I just think offensively you can get shots up at the gym, you can work on your dribble moves, you can do some one-on-one, some 2-on-2. There's a lot of stuff you can run offensively to skill your game up. But defensively, particularly at the speed and the complexity at which the offensive game is played on the NBA level, defensively, I think the only way you truly get better is by getting as many actual game reps as possible, seeing how teams move, understanding where my teammates, because defense is not it is individual. It's keeping your man in front, but it's also understanding where everybody else is on the floor and what your assignment is. And then how much to trust whoever you have behind you and whoever you have to the left and right of you. Like that stuff only comes through experience and actual game experience, not even so much practice, although I'm sure that helps. Training camps, I'm sure that helps. But you got to be healthy and playing in these games and making the mistakes and then going to look at the film. Like we've heard so much, LaMelo Ball, he's not afraid of getting into a film session. He's not afraid of getting back into the laboratory and working something out. But if you're not putting stuff on tape to actually work on, none of that matters. And so, I think Tim Bontemps in this case is right. Like it's less that he's not competing and more so he's not competing figuratively and more so that he's not competing literally. And so hopefully you get 60 or 70 games of LaMelo Ball because he's showing I think, and interested in your thoughts on this, having watched these 3 preseason games, I think he's showing more unwillingness to be screened in this preseason than I've seen from him in his entire career.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like, especially when like on a give and go type situation where he's on the on ball defender and they kick the ball, sometimes that's when he falls asleep and they cut back door. He's on top of it every time the guy passes the ball and cuts. He's with them. His hands are up. He's moving his feet well. It's just, it feels like he cares more than he ever has. And I think the whole team has in general. The whole team does. And I think that that's a huge deal for guys like you said, Josh Green, because Josh Green, a lot of complaints for him this last year, but because of his defense. But I think he's a good on-ball defender, but he's a good on-ball defender when there's also good to decent team defense. So he wasn't able to use his full potential because the whole team defense sucked. So he didn't look like anything special. I think once the team gets healthy, and when he gets healthy and this team with this current effort level, once that is happening and that's the case, you're going to see night and day differences between the team. You know what I'm saying?
No, I totally agree. Now, before we move on to the 2 games that they have this week, one against the Grizzlies, that'll be in Greensboro. Again, Spectrum Center renovations continue. Are they going to be ready for the first game of the regular season? I don't know. But Greensboro for this preseason game, and then they go to New York, Madison Square Garden. They will play the Knicks. I want to get your thoughts on what you want to see out of the team this week. But before that, let's button anything else up that you want to talk about.
See, there's one topic that has been talked about a lot, and I had a kind of my own take on it. Naz Reid is a guy that I look at when I look at Moussa Diabate, because we talked about, is he going to start? Is he the most talented center? That's been a topic you got to talk about on Locked On Hornets. Is the most talented center the center who's going to start? I would say that Naz Reid might be the most talented center in Minnesota, but because of positional size, because of it's not as much veteran anymore, but it was the start of veteran leadership, and they start Rudy Gobert. I mean, Rudy Gobert's still a great defender and everything, but Naz Reid, I think, is the most talented big on the roster. That's part of the reason why they traded Karl-Anthony Towns, so they could retain Naz Reid. When he comes off the bench, partially because of his size, partially because of the energy that he brings off the bench, Moussa Diabate is not going to score like Naz Reid, but Moussa brings that same energy. And to what Naz Reid's offense is, I think Moussa's defense could be that way, and just energy level as a whole. He's a tenacious rebounder. He brings energy. He can guard the entire floor. I just think he's not as good as Naz Reid. I think Naz Reid is a much better player than Moussa Diabate. I love Moussa. Naz Reid, I think in a different situation could be an all-star. But the idea of Naz Reid is kind of where I keep looking at Moussa. And what do you think about that?
So I get where you're coming from philosophically, in that like versatility, something that's valued in the NBA, and they are versatile in 2 different ways. The issue is, and why Moussa Diabate won't be considered for anywhere near the contract of Naz Reid, is because we talk about wanting players to play both sides of the ball, but in today's NBA, offense is still significantly more important than the defensive end of the floor. You have to be able to score. Steve Clifford would always say, like, if you can't defend, you better be able to score 25 points a game, right? You better be James Harden level if you're going to give 0 effort on the defensive end or have 0 impact on the defensive end. You better be like elite scorer. Well, but there's another side of that coin, Evan, which is that, like, if you cannot be a factor offensively, if I can't count on you, if everybody else is struggling and we need something from you on the offensive end of the floor and we can't count on you for that, you better be Dikembe Mutombo. Like, you better be
Rudy Gobert.
You better be Rudy Gobert. Exactly. Like, Rudy Gobert can get away with it because he's, in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year every year. But the offensive end of the floor is still significantly more important than the defensive end of the floor. And so that's where, Naz Reid, according to Clean the Glass, was a plus 15 points per possession on versus off for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I bet if you went and looked at Musa Diabate's numbers for the Charlotte Hornets last season, they were probably similar in terms of in terms of plus minus impact. But it's a different. If they were both plus 15, it would be a different plus 15 because at the end of the day, you got to. I'll go to the Roy Williams-ism of all Roy Williams-ism, former UNC Tar Heel legend. You got to put the ball in the darn hoop. That's the name of the game. And for Musa Diabate, he's not going to do it from three. It looks like he's improved a little bit in terms of a few of the different moves that we've seen him flash. This push shot that he's hit a couple of times. But he's not a dominant force, and he won't be a dominant force offensively around the basket, away from the basket. You're just going to have to hope that, if he is starting alongside LaMelo Ball, in a very similar way that I think Ryan Kalkbrenner was successful against the Mavericks, in that LaMelo and Brandon are going to attract attention and open up opportunities for Musa and Ryan to get the easy ones. And then it's like, how much cleanup duty can they do, to put together an offensive game? Like, that's the thing. Ryan Kalkbrenner, Musa Diabate, they are going to have to put together offensive games. Mark Williams, for all of his many faults that I documented on Locked On Hornets, there were nights when he didn't need to put together an offensive game, when his physical tools and his offensive gifts were such that he could be a dominant force on the offensive end of the floor. It's just that he needed the perfect matchup, and those nights were fewer and far between than they needed to be. But that's not the case with Musa and Ryan. Like, they're going to have to put together offensive nights. And so that's where I think it's different with the Naz Reid situation, and why Naz Reid is going to command a different level of contract than I think Musa will. And Ryan, unless his three-point shot develops and becomes consistent and he does become a Brook Lopez level player, I don't think he's going to command that kind of money in the future either.
Yeah, if Ryan Kalkbrenner hits a Brook Lopez level player, I'll get emotional, I think. That's all I can say. Like, having a stretch big who can play defense, I didn't mean it in the sense of like money wise per se, just like the idea of like the philosophy, like you were saying, of you have a guy who might be more talented off the bench, but because of the size and the energy that they bring, you might keep him off the bench, or not start him like the 4 or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It was just something I was thinking about. You talked about Locked On Hornets, and I was like, oh, it's kind of reminds me of Naz Reid. It's just one of those things, Yeah,
like Naz is in the 6th man of the year conversation. I think that Musa Diabate is in the toolsy bench wrench guy that again, on a much more talented playoff level roster would be that 8th or 9th guy that comes into a playoff game and has a huge impact, and everyone goes like, Musa Diabate, what the hell? Like, I never, that's, and look, when the Hornets were back in the day, when the Hornets were making the playoffs and they were winning playoff series, they had those types of guys. Lee Nalon was not that on defense, but offensively was like a toolsy, bench wrenchy kind of guy that you were going, Lee Nalon, oh my God, Lee Nalon. Like, they had those guys. PJ Brown was a starter, but he did a lot of that dirty work defensively, and he was a known quantity. But they just had toolsy guys like that all over the floor. You need Musa Diabates. It's just, there's a difference between that guy and a guy who's going to be in 6th man of the year conversation. That's not sliding Diabate necessarily. It's just more like putting into context what Naz Reid is able to contribute. But I like the comparison of like, some guys are going to be versatile offensively, some guys are going to be versatile defensively. It's just the guys that are versatile defensively and low impact on offense tend to be the toolsy 8th, 9th guy, and not the 6th man. But that's just the way the NBA is structured. If Musa Diabate was playing in the 90s, might be a different story. He might be easily like 5th starter.
I had to Google who Lee Nalon was. I aged myself.
Nails.
He played in the Hornets from 2000 2002. I was zero. I was born November 99 for the context here. So I mean, and that that's the fun thing too, is that nobody in my life watched basketball, or nobody in my immediate family watched basketball. So I discovered all basketball myself. So I became a sicko all natural.
That's great. That's the best way to become a sicko.
Yeah.
We don't want any of this manufactured sickoness. We want all naturals, whole wheat sicko. That's what we want. No preservatives. We need the full thing.
No
All right,
GMOs.
let's look ahead of these two games, Evan, before we get out of here. So Wednesday they play the Grizzlies in Greensboro in the Coliseum, and then they will go to New York later in the week on Friday. What do you want to see in these next two preseason games before we meet back up on Monday?
I will want to see us. I want to see us beat the Grizzlies. Obviously, I want to see us win both games. But if we lose to the Grizzlies, it's going to be a bad look just because Ja's out, Jaren's out, and Edie's out. I mean, Jaren and Edie had surgery, and Ja's week to week with an ankle sprain. If we don't, I know that the Grizzlies are like they're all the scrappy dudes, the guys trying to make the roster on the team. Essentially, at least a couple of years ago, they were guys trying to make rosters, and now they all have decent contracts there. So, we'll see how it goes. That is such a Hornets game to lose, but.
Hornets had trouble with that against OKC in that game one when they played the Oklahoma City Scattered Showers. So
yeah, no, that
you can't lose to the Memphis Bear Cubs.
Memphis Bear Cubs is good. I won't be in the building for this one, so maybe I was bad luck against the second and third type rosters. I just want to see what we saw this last time. I want to see them move the ball. I want to see pace. I want to see a good ball movement. I think you talk about moves on offense. He just he makes a lot of the right passes now. I feel like he's a lot more comfortable with the ball in his hand. I want to see that across the board. I want to see everybody just do what they're supposed to do. Can we just do what we're supposed to do? Can we have the big men play like big men? Can we have, LaMelo not break something? Can we just all do what we're supposed to do? The Grizzlies are bad luck for injuries, apparently.
Yeah, I think we've seen the Hornets play all out. We've seen them play with a lot of effort. Now I think in the back half of this preseason, they need to start to button things up a little bit.
Exactly.
So they're 14 of 23 in this game from the free throw line. They had 25 turnovers. 41 of the Mavericks' 116 points came off of Hornets turnovers. They have to button that up. And it hasn't.
Yeah.
And you don't get 25 turnovers when it's one or two guys. It's across the board. So look, when you play fast and loose, you're probably not going to be able to keep your turnovers to 12 and 13. Although the Pacers did that. I mean, that was the brilliance of that team. This team maybe just doesn't have all of that talent where you could accomplish that. So I have realistic expectations, but 25 turnovers, that's too much. They've got to button some of this stuff up as we move along in the preseason. So that's what I'm looking for. And so first three games, they started someone new. We don't know what man's status is going to be, but they started someone new in each of the games at that second wing position. So what's Lee going to do here? Is he going to stick with Colin Sexton? Is he going to go back to Con Knippel? We haven't seen Mason Plumlee start. Will Mason finally start at center to see what he has to give him a showcase game? I think all of those things are things that I'm looking for from the Charlotte Hornets. And it's weird. As fast as the Hornets played, fast break points, 38-10 in favor of the Dallas Mavericks. That's interesting. But the Hornets, they spent most of this game leading, and they win 120-116. Final thought, Evan, before we get out.
You did mention the Pacers, and we talk about them a lot. I was just trying to thinking back real quick. Because of the injuries, their center rotation was so question marked last year. There was a lot of question marks on them too, especially in the playoffs. Even
more this year.
Yeah, especially now this year. But I mean, your backup centers were Thomas Bryant and Tony Bradley in the playoffs. So and they had a lot of guards. Maybe that's the formula. Maybe we'll see that. I don't know. Maybe I'm a sicko and I just want to see the Hornets play meaningful basketball again.
All right. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we will be covering each of these games on Every Hornets Box Score. If you're watching this and you haven't signed up for Every Hornets Box Score, you can sign up for free to get this podcast. And then if you want to support the work that Evan and I are doing, this year. You can do that at everyhornetsboxscore.com. Thanks to all the sickos. For Evan, I'm Doug saying go Hornets, go America. Let's swarm Charlotte.